I, 27F, discovered a huge family secret I wish I didn't. I grew up with a very nuclear family. Parents still married. Sisters 10 years older than me. We are all very close. About 6 months ago I started getting into DNA testing. My mom tried hard to discourage it, and looking back she always got weird about extra relatives I found. I did say numerous times if there was any family secrets that she should tell me before I did it. The results came back somewhat normal. The only weird thing was Dad's family was from Cornwall, but my DNA said it was more Middle English. Other than getting cool results, I didn't think anything more of it until last night, when a 17-year-old girl messaged me on Instagram telling me to check my Ancestry account for a message. When I checked, she told me she was a sperm donor baby and we came up as first cousins. I got so excited thinking that one of my dad's brothers donated and I'd found more mystery family. I called my mom to ask which brother it could be. My mom got upset and then told me I was a donor baby too. Which means this girl isn't a cousin. She's a half-sister. They had this story I grew up with about Dad getting a vasectomy and how they spent all this money to reverse it, and I made it through. I probably should have realized just from the story and other little hints throughout my life, but I was oblivious. Apparently it was never a good time to tell me. Back then it was advised never to tell the children, and they hadn't spoken about it since the pregnancy and had essentially forgotten. Their worst fear is that I'm angry with them and will also maybe seek out other family. There's also legal contracts that I can't find out who the donor is. Guys, I'm devastated. I love my family. I love my dad. I used to think we were so similar in looks and personality. I have BPD. Therapy has made me a better, functional human, which already causes me to have identity crisis. I always saw myself as the black sheep of the family. Now I'm just lost. I know all the rules illogically. It doesn't change anything. My dad still loves me. My sisters aren't half-sisters. They are still full sisters. And yet I can't stop crying. I keep wondering if it's really possible to love a non-biologically child as much as you love a biological child. Again, I know logically you can, but my emotions are crazy right now. I'm so upset. I want to be my dad's biological daughter. He's amazing. I'm so broken over this. I just wish I had been his biologically. How do I start to deal with this? How do I cope? What are my next moves? Does anyone have useful advice? I'm trying to look after my 18-month-old daughter and it's so hard. I'm thinking about going over my parents tonight because I'm scared if I don't, I'm not going to want to see them or deal with the issue for a very long time. If ever. TL. Dr. Dad, not actually Dad. Am sperm baby. Had a deal. Update. I'm at my parents now. We've had big talks. I'm still very shaken and feel weird, but they love me and nothing has changed. I wish I didn't know, and I'm sad I don't share genetics with my dad, but it is what it is. I'm going to get therapy to work through my feelings and try not to let it get to me. My suggestion is, go to your parents' house. See the love in their eyes. Cry together. Hug. You know he's your dad logically. He took care of you from birth. Sperm is not what makes a dad a dad. You are not sperm plus egg. You're a person who was born and was, and is, loved by them. Your DNA doesn't matter. Your personality, your mind, they shaped those. They are your parents. But all the logic in the world can't fix emotions. You need to go to see them. See their love, their emotions, in order to deal with your own. They've loved you all your life. And you love them too. It's in there. Go. Show it to them. Let them show it to you. A friend of mine calls her ex-husband a sperm donor. Because that's what he is. He got her pregnant and skipped out on her. Now, her kid grew up with a very loving dad who never treated her any differently than his biological kid. You were here because you were wanted. You are here because they dreamed about you and loved you before you were even born. Feel this pain, but don't ever doubt for a second that your dad doesn't love you. You are loved. You mom and dad made the decision to open their hearts to another kid. Eyes wide open to what was needed to make that happen. I can see why it could be upsetting to only find out now. But take it to heart that your parents forgot about the sperm donor because it didn't matter to them. You are their daughter and they both love you unconditionally. Having a heart-to-heart with your dad will probably be therapeutic to both you and him. He may be having the same worries that you'll feel differently about him now. Good luck! I was adopted at birth, but I've known my entire life. I find a lot of peace in knowing I am my own person, not related biologically to my parents. I'm a blank slate. I have zero family medical history, and I honestly prefer it that way. If I catch myself acting like my mother, I chalk it up to because she raised me so I'm her little mini-me. I have the same anxiety issues as my dad. I'm this way because they are my parents. DNA plays a part in who you are, but it's minuscule when compared to your surroundings and influences. Please give your parents a break because they only did what they were told, which was to keep it a secret. My parents went against the advice they got from everyone by telling me before I could remember. Their parents, therapists, psychologists, social workers, and the adoption agency all preached to never ever let me find out. I'm forever grateful that they told me the truth, but it cost them a lot. Resentment from the extended family still pops up from time to time. Even though I'm now 25 years old, you are your father's daughter. No matter what some paperwork says, they're having just as hard of a time processing this as you are. They're losing sleep at night asking themselves if they should have just told you or if things would be different if they had. I think the truth is, it doesn't matter. Maybe they screwed up, but I can believe they had good intentions. With time you should be able to understand that they only kept this from you because they love you so much. It might sound like a load of shit now, but it's true. Your DNA doesn't define you. Everything you know how to do and to be in life begins with your parents. Both of them. Your dad loves you just as much as your sisters, and I imagine a lot of the similarities you see with your dad are due to your parents picking a sperm donor who was very similar to your dad. That said, therapy is also helpful for your personal growth. Certainly they should have told you from the beginning. But I also understand the doctors and therapists back then told people not to tell their kids, and those experts were believed because they're the experts. And while I understand how upset you are, the love in your life and family don't change. Hey, I just learned that I am a donor baby too. At the ripe old age of 34 to 10 years after the man I thought was my dad died. It changed a lot of things. But it also changed nothing. He is still the dad who raised me, who celebrated my successes and hugged me when things didn't go my way. I'm not going to say it hasn't been a huge frame shift in my world, because it has. But your family is still your family in all the ways that matter except one. Feel free to DM if you want to talk more. Hugs. Go watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2. There's a part where Yondu says, "He may have been your father, boy, but he wasn't your daddy." For the film, it's incredibly touching and I think highlights a really important fact that your caregivers aren't always your biological parents but should be considered with care and importance. So you were created by sperm donation. Aside from medical history, there isn't too much to know from someone who had no interest in meeting offspring. Meanwhile, you have an active father who wanted you. I think you should focus on that. You are loved and you are still made in love. Anytime that inner voice brings up a negative thought, just remember, you were greatly wanted. Honey, my bio dad is a sperm donor and I spent my entire childhood w him until I was 14. Please don't let this change your family dynamic. I know that you are having a rough time coping, but you will be okay. That man raised you. He loves you and sees you as his daughter. You will be okay. You need time. Hug your baby and don't worry about it. They chose to have you. Sperm donation. You weren't an accident but a deliberate choice both parents made to have you. Know that they love you and he chose to raise you as his own. You will be fine. I love all the responses here. I was adopted at birth in a closed adoption. I ended up connecting with my bio mom and dad about 10 years ago. I've enjoyed getting to know them both and seeing some similarities with them and my half-siblings. My adoptive parents love me very much. I always knew I was adopted, so I can't say how it is to find out when you're grown. But I see my bio parents as two more people I have in my life that care about me. My parents will always be my parents. I'm also getting to know some of my half-siblings. 6 from my dad and 2 from mom. DNA no more makes a family than chairs make a table. Sure, most of the time they complement. The table and chairs go together. But not always. There are tables that are so low to the ground you don't need chairs. I'm staring at my bar right now and I have 4 bar stools. Chairs without a table. You can put chairs that didn't come in the same set together and it looks wonderful for your decor. You can put a table with a set of chairs that did not originally belong to it, but match so well no one could ever tell. You can put a chair with a table that is the complete opposite and they contrast wonderfully. Your DNA does not define you, nor your family. I'm the non-biological parent of a 6-month-old. Same-sex parents. I'm also the non-donor conceived sibling of 2 donor-conceived adults and my partner is donor conceived. First of all, I'm sorry that you found out this way. I can understand that this is a huge shock for you and of course you will have a lot of emotions going on. You're entitled to that. Second, your dad is still your dad. Your parents love you and they wanted to have you in their life so much that they accepted the help of a donor and fertility clinic so they could have you. Your family are the people who love and raise you. Biology plays a part, but in my experience the most important characteristics, your values, how you interact with people, etc., these come from your social family. Third, this does not change you who you are. You are you and all those things you share with your dad are still things you share with him. This doesn't need to change your relationship with your parents because nothing has changed except your knowledge. You mentioned legal contracts preventing you from finding the donor. From a legal perspective, you aren't a party to that contract so it isn't binding on you. Some countries also have protections in place for donor-conceived people that allow them access to information and sometimes contact with the donor once they turn 18. However, think carefully about whether you want to do this. Often anonymous donors aren't receptive to being found, particularly through DNA sites and sleuthing. A good starting point instead might be to ask the fertility clinic if they have any information. My partner made contact with her donor through the fertility clinic and made contact. It was interesting, but ultimately she didn't want any kind of relationship with her donor. She has kept in contact with a number of her half-siblings and has a good relationship with them. There are lots of groups on Facebook for donor-conceived people. Many of them have been through your exact experience. You might want to join a couple to talk to others who really understand what you are going through. A final note. As a non-biological parent, please know that you are just as loved as any biological child. From the moment my daughter was conceived, there has never been any question in my mind that she was my child, and I love her more than I can possibly explain. Hugs. I'm sorry you are feeling lost and confused. It is natural, but don't let your brain tell you it is necessary. I don't have BPD, but one of my closest friends has it, so I'm fairly familiar. I know how it can really be messing you up right now. You are getting swept up in your emotions and they are taking control. Employ those DBT skills and contact your therapist to help you navigate through this. This is a lot even for someone with OA personality disorder. And I would suggest therapy for them too. And feel good that you are also not lashing out, that you are acknowledging and identifying your feelings. Those are hard things to do under strain. You've done half the battle already. You are stronger than you think. My dad is technically my stepdad. He married my mom when I was 12. He's a bit older than my mom, who was always one of the older moms between my friends. So his kids were already grown, out of college, living full adult lives. He wasn't planning on raising any more kids, but he fell in love with my mom and with us. So he suddenly had a tween to raise. And my brother too, who was 10, I think. And he did raise us. And he loved us. And he has been there for every milestone and every small moment. He's my dad. He couldn't love us more if we were genetically linked. It isn't possible. Genetics mean some things. They don't mean everything. Genetics cannot dictate love and commitment. And honestly, they don't really dictate parenthood either. Just progeny. Your dad is your dad. And nothing will change that for him. Just like you are his daughter and nothing will change that for you. You will get through this. It's a small detour in the road, not a sinkhole. Edit. Thanks for the award, kind stranger. Oh man, I thought you were going to say that you found out your dad cheated and had families around the globe. I'm sure this is shocking and upsetting news. But look at it this way. Your parents wanted you. They really wanted you. They found a way to have you when your father could not do so biologically. It sounds like they super love you, and of course you are family. They raised you, and that is worth everything. I hope you go to see them and talk about it and learn to move beyond this news and just continue to love each other as family. Life is too short to worry about DNA. Family is family and they will always be your family. Aw, sweetie. Your dad is your dad. Why does it matter where the sperms came from? My dad, bio dad, was never around and had 6 kids he barely took care of. I would have loved to have a dad who loved me and was there for me, with or without a biological connection. Men's contribution to babies is just an orgasm. Not much, unless they hang around and do the work. Good luck, Rainbow. I, like you, was a sperm donor baby. Due to a few chromosomal issues, my dad just can't have bio kids. I don't remember how old I was, probably around 6 to 8. Definitely younger than 10, but I remember clearly when my mom told me. I was playing with toy horses. She was cooking in the kitchen, and she just said it like it was the most casual topic of conversation ever. Neither of us stopped what we were doing. Just, here's a fun fact, and it never impacted any of our lives after that. It was brought up occasionally, in the sense that more conversations about why dad couldn't have kids happened once I was old enough to understand what chromosomes are. I'm 21 now and I can't fathom all these stories about parents hiding this information. It's not some dirty little secret. It's just your biological makeup that means jack shit at the end of the day. Which brings me to my advice. Treat it like jack shit. Obviously, you're allowed to feel how you will. I'm not saying you shouldn't or that you're wrong to feel confused and hurt. But it is possible to love a non-bio kid as much as a bio one, because it really does mean jack shit. Parents aren't the people whose DNA you share. They're the people who listened to every inane thought you wanted to talk about, who patched your wounds and took you to doctor's appointments, who attended your hobbies and graduations. Your family, your parents, are people who made, and make, you feel like you matter. At the end of the day, it may still hurt that this was hidden from you. And that's okay. But just remember, you were a deliberate choice for your parents. There was real effort put into your conception. Even if half of that DNA isn't your dad's. They wanted you. They chose you. Hold on to that. Life can be complicated, and this is another facet of life that can become complicated. Being a father and a dad are two separate things. And even if your dad isn't your father, he's been there for you since birth. And he loves you a lot. He has raised you as his own. And that's what matters. Your dad wanted you so bad he got a painful and expensive vasectomy reversal. And it didn't work, but that didn't stop your parents. It's absolutely possible to love a chosen child as much as a biological one. Love is an action and a choice. When I was 12, I learned that my father, who had raised me my whole life, was actually my stepfather. My mother had been addicted to hard drugs, got pregnant with a man she knew for 4 months, and decided to go through with the pregnancy. My bio dad was never in my life before that. It was extremely hard for me to several years. I became deeply depressed and felt like my entire life was a lie. My grandparents, who I lived with for 9 years and loved so much. Unrelated. My uncle, who always treated me like a little sister. Unrelated. There were other complications, too. Meeting my bio dad and stepmom. And my stepmom being 7 months pregnant at the time. Highly religious extended family ostracizing me once they learned I was a bastard, etc. But overall I became incredibly depressed. It was really hard for a few years. I'm 24 now. What I can tell you is, it gets easier. It gets so much easier. It's okay to cry, and it's okay to mourn the life that you had. It's okay to grieve those blood ties that are not necessarily what you thought they were. But that love that you have felt and still feel is real. You are your parents' child. They have loved you and raised you, and they don't think any differently of you. Of course, I'm sure that BPD complicates your feelings a lot. And I'm not trying to downplay that at all. But I do truly believe things will get easier for you once you've had a chance to process everything. If you ever want to vent or talk to someone who went through something somewhat similar, my DMs are open. Stay safe, heart. There are therapists that specialize in this sort of thing. Look up adoption therapist. I know, it's not adoption, but feelings are similar. Prioritize your own feelings, but try to view your parents through sympathetic eyes. 30 years ago, advice on how to address these issues may have been very different. Congratulations on your new little sister.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.